What is up, faithfuls? I understand not too many people are going to be in here quite yet, but we decided to go live this week for Nothing But Fantasy Week 5. My name's Dylan Frazier, and I'll let my partner over there introduce himself real quick.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Steve Mullen. Follow my Twitter handle at @SMullenJr. Dylan's here with me. We're going to run through this week's fantasy. Start and sit, answer your questions. Got kind of late this week. We apologize for that, so we'll make sure we get it early here the next week going on.
We had a problem with it last week and a little bit this week. We just had some problems. I got school. It's killing me. I was around midterm time. Work's always a problem too, but we're definitely trying to get it to you as soon as possible. Glad that we could get it out to you, even if it's right there cutting it at game day. But I think that means we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll send it over to Steve. Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry. I forgot to give my Twitter name. It's Dylan Frazier98. And also make sure you follow Nothing But Niners on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. We got it. Snapchat, too. It's Nothing But Niners. And definitely give us a look. We do much more than fantasy. We definitely go deep into the 49ers world of sports, and but today we go all around the NFL for fantasy. So I'm going to send it over to Steve, and we'll get started.
All right, guys, so it's week 5 already into the season. We're going to start with the starts this week. I'm going my quarterback first, and I'm picking Deshaun Watson. I picked him last week. That worked out great for me. So he's my quarterback again. He's my quarterback again this week. He threw 5 total touchdowns last week. I believe 4 passing, 1 rushing. He played Tennessee, who's not a great defense this week. He's playing Kansas City, who's a little tougher, but it is at home. Kansas City's much better at home than on the road. Kansas City's actually ranked 25th against the pass. I didn't expect that really with Peters on one side, but the other side's getting exposed here. So I see Watson having another great game. Maybe not to Hopkins as much, but he should have a solid game this week, and he's a guy that you could plug into the starting lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into who might be having a solid game because he's one of my wide receivers later. But for my first quarterback, I've already gotten heat on this one in our group chat. But I told him I would explain, and you're going to get – this is only something you can get if you watch the podcast because it's not included in the article. But my guy this week is Marcus Mariota. I know they say he's a game-time decision. I'm really not scared. I don't think he won't play. I think he'll be in there. And if he does, he's going against the Dolphins, guys. The Dolphins who, first off, lost to the Jets, then got shut out by the Saints, okay? This Dolphins team is not good at all. So I'd love to see the Titans come in there and just, especially off a bounce-back week of getting absolutely crushed by the Texans. I think Marcus Mariota is going to be just fine, but just in case, here's what I'm going to do. I can also say I think if you last minute, there's nobody left on free agency, Brian Hoyer's got to be there, and he's not the worst matchup this week. But I wouldn't go there first. You can also go with Jared Goff. You can look for Deshaun Watson, like he said. Sam Bradford might be sitting in there somewhere because of injuries. He's expected to start. If he doesn't, you got Casey Keenum. And then we'll get into the last guy later. I'll talk a little bit more about him. So that's it for my quarterback. I'm going with Marcus, but I gave you a list of guys you can get because Marcus is in that first game for the day. So you can work around it. So go ahead and hit us with the running backs.
Yep, definitely got to watch the injury report in the morning for Mariota. And I'm picking a running back who you also got to watch the injury report. I'm picking Aaron Jones. Mm-hmm. He filled in last week when Montgomery got hurt, when Williams went down, and he looked apart. He played great. He only had about 49 yards, but, he didn't play a full game. He looks a lot better than Jamal Williams does in my eyes. He's a guy that I think if Montgomery is out this week, so like I said, you got to watch the waiver wire or the injury report, my mistake. Plug him in. I think he'll be good against Dallas. He looks better than Williams. Williams may get the start, but Jones should be a guy he could pass catch. he could do it all from what it looks like. So, like I said, watch injury report. If Montgomery is in, it's a late game, so keep an eye on it. You may need a substitute, but right now I say plug him in.
Yeah. All right. So my first running back is a guy that I was super high on going into this fantasy draft season. I was so excited about Bilal Powell because you look at the Jets and they don't have anything. They're nothing. And what do teams do that have nothing? They have to move the ball somehow, so they just keep handing it off. Only problem was he was splitting carries with Matt Forte for a while. Forte is dealing with some injury problems. I believe he's still labeled as out. I haven't checked it today. But whenever he just got the starting job last week, he definitely showed out with 163 rushing yards and a touchdown. That's definitely good enough to be in your starting lineup. So I would definitely say turn to Bilal Powell for your running back this week.
Good choice. My second running back is none other than.
Hang on, I'm so excited. I wore the jersey. Go for it.
Frank Gore.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
It's a revenge game for Frank Gore. The first time he's playing the Niners with Indianapolis. I think they're just going to feed him the ball. Brissett's been pretty good. He's getting the ball downfield. He's hit a couple guys last week. But I think they are going to feature Frank Gore in this game. They're going to want Frank Gore to score against his former team. Maybe not once, maybe not twice, maybe even 3 times. The Niners defense, they're pretty good against the run, but they give up plays. They are not top 5 defense. They're improving, but they could still have the ball moved on them. Anytime it's close to the goal line, I think it's going to be Frank's. So put him in. He'll have probably multiple touchdowns this week.
Yeah, I don't care that he's going against us, man. I want to win this game because I know we need to win this game.
Oh, yeah.
But he's 3 yards away from passing Eric Dickerson, and you better believe I'm rocking the Frank Gore jersey tomorrow. That's just what's happening. So my next running back is going to be a guy that a lot of people have been really down on before the season even started. It's going to be Marshawn Lynch, and he hasn't played great. I know that. But with Derek Carr dealing with some injuries, we don't even really know what's going to happen with Derek Carr. He might be out. He might not be. He broke a back, right? And they're saying he's questionable to start. That's just crazy to me. I wouldn't want to trust Derek Carr. And even whenever Derek Carr isn't playing, E.J. Manuel isn't going to do anything spectacular. So the Raiders will need to lean heavily on the run if they want to take out the Cardinals this week. And especially since the Cardinals, if they have anything going for them, they're usually pretty good on that pass D. So I would expect to see Marshawn Lynch get a little uptake in carries this week, and I think it's worth a start on your team.
Good one. I'm going my first wide receiver from the same game as I chose Frank Gore. It's going to be T.Y. Hilton. The Niners' pass defense is garbage. He's probably going up against Rashard Robinson, as Nick says from Nothing But Niners. Rashard Robinson is Dookie. So he can't keep up. T.Y. Hilton's got too much speed. Hilton's going to be wide open all day. I think he's going to have a monster game. You got to put him in your lineup. So the Niners' pass defense is just not there. And they cannot keep up with Hilton's speed. I don't think so, not this week.
Yeah. All right, my first guy, we hit on Deshaun Watson a little earlier, and you mentioned a little bit about how DeAndre Hopkins might not get exactly what he's looking for just because he will have to deal with Marcus Peters. So I'm going with my guy, Will Fuller. I may still be partial to Fuller because last year I picked him up on free agency before anybody knew about him, and he made me very happy for a few games. Definitely started scoring some points for me and helped me win multiple games. He's finally back to a healthy state, and from all the reports I've heard, Deshaun Watson loves him as a target. So I'm expecting this to be a breakout week for Will Fuller, and he will, by next week, be one of those guys that, he needs to be on your fantasy roster. So I think he'll definitely have a good game this week.
Yeah. My second wide receiver, I'm picking Jarvis Landry. I wanted to go Devontae Parker, but I couldn't pick him 3 weeks in a row. So I think either way, you could honestly either play either Dolphins wide receiver, but Jarvis Landry gets a lot of targets, a lot of catches. He's great for PPR. They're going up against the Titans, who, as you've seen last week, let Deshaun Watson throw all over him. Like I said, 4 touchdown passes. Jay Cutler hasn't been great, but playing against a weak defense in Tennessee, he should get a few touchdowns in. Jarvis Landry should receive one of those, and pretty good on the PPR side with the receptions. Maybe not a big yards game, but if you are PPR, he's always around that 8-10 catch area, so he's a good start for me.
All right, my guy this week, I'm going to go with Randall Cobb. I'm pretty big on Randall Cobb this week just because we talked about earlier with Ty Montgomery dealing with that injury. That's going to take a big part of the Packers' offense away, which is those little short, little dinky passes that Aaron Rodgers loves to give to Ty, or just the run game in general. But what I found out about Randall Cobb when I did a little bit of research is he leads the Packers in short pass targets. So he's that guy that they go to for the short yardage situation, and he also leads the Packers in yards in general. So he's a guy that you want to get in there, especially this week with a little bit of running back problems.
All right, for tight end this week, I'm going Charles Clay. If he's not 100% owned by now, I'm not sure why. I believe he's the 4th-ranked tight end. He's been pretty good. He had one off week, which, of course, was the week I started him. but I did start him last week. Last week he had 5 catches, 112 yards. Buffalo just lost Jordan Matthews. He's going to be out this week. They really have nobody else at wide receiver. So Charles Clay should get a lot of targets. Cincinnati's defense pretty good, but as long as you're getting the targets, you should get a start here at tight end because tight end hasn't been that great this year.
All right, and for my tight end, I want to point out that if we had been on top of it, and that's my bad because I had a midterm, I wanted to put Cameron Brate's name down here, and it would have been perfect. I would have been spot on because he had an awesome game. I loved Cameron Brate going into that game, but I missed it by a few days, so I'm going to put another guy who should be a slam dunk for me with Evan Ingram. Ingram is exactly what the Giants have been looking for in a tight end spot for a little while. He's exactly what you want in a fantasy tight end right now, too. He is the 7th leading scorer in the tight end spot, and if you look at his scoring, he's pretty consistent every week. He puts up those points, and the Giants and the Chargers are about to play this week for a battle on who can get their first win because they're both 0-4 right now. I'll be honest, the Giants are a pretty good 0-4 team. They just needed Odell back, and they will build up that steam. And I think Evan Ingram's going to get a good amount of targets when they win that game.
Yeah, definitely. He's been playing pretty well and getting a lot of targets so far this year. Good start there. So for the defense, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. They play Arizona this week. We seen it last week. Arizona has no offensive line. They're missing 3 starters. They gave up 6 sacks to the Niners, who I believe only had 3 sacks before entering the last week. So Philadelphia should have an easy, same probably amount of sack game, 6 sacks, 7 sacks. I mean, it's hard to go against Philadelphia. Arizona has no pass blocking. Carson Palmer should be running all day, and we know he's not mobile, so he's going to eat a lot of sacks. So should be a good game for Philadelphia.
Yeah. And before we go any further, I just want to let you know, anybody that might be watching on here right now, definitely send in your question, any fantasy football question at all. We'll give you the shout out and answer the question as soon as I can get to it. I got the live chat pulled up right here. So my defense this week is the Ravens defense. And that sounds weird because the Ravens aren't necessarily a very good team, especially after you saw them go against London Blake Bortles, which is a completely different Blake Bortles than the normal one. And then after they went against Pittsburgh. But if you go back before that, their starting 2 weeks were actually pretty strong. And as they meet a Raiders offense that's falling apart at the seams, I kind of expect them to have a pretty good week. If Derek Carr is starting, he'll be too hurt to really be on top of his game, and you can expect an interception here or there. Or if E.J. Manuel's starting, he's not a starter for a reason, so you can expect an interception here or there. So I like Baltimore's defense this week.
All right, we're moving on to the sit portion. So my quarterback this week, I'm going to sit Andy Dalton. Going up against Buffalo. Buffalo is actually very good defense for them trading away a lot of pieces this offseason. They're only averaging about 212 yards passing per game, and have only allowed one touchdown pass all season. They're going up against – Dalton hasn't been great. He's got A.J. Green. That's about all he's got. He's missing Tyler Eifert. Look for the Bills to have a good field day on Dalton and have Dalton struggle this week.
All right, and we just had one of our first questions in the live chat, so I'm going to go ahead and address that real quick. Michael Andrews wanted us to just explain the Marcus Mariota thing. We hit on it earlier, but I understand that was earlier. You missed it. But no worries. We'll explain it. I'll go through it real quick again. What I said was I'm not really doubtful that he won't play. I think he's going to play. I'm pretty confident in that. But if he doesn't, I gave you a little list of some people you can start. At the absolute worst, you can put in some Blake Bortles going against the Colts. They're not good. So I expect him to finally have a decent game. You could also look for a Jared Goff. You could look for a Sam Bradford, or if Sam Bradford remains hurt, you can go for a Casey Keenum there. And then there's another guy that I'm going to hit on at the end of this podcast that I'll put on there too. But my sit quarterback for the week is Cam Newton. I'm not fooled by that Week 4 performance against the Patriots. Cam Newton is still not the same Cam Newton he was 2 years ago. He's not healthy yet. And going against the Lions defense, which if they aren't number one, they're at least in the top 3, I believe, because they're a top fantasy scoring. They're a top fantasy scoring team defense right now. So I mean, I think that's a team. That's a guy that you just want to kind of stay away from this week. I wouldn't want Cam as my starter this week.
All right, we move on to the running backs. My running back I'm sitting this week is Jordan Howard. They're going up against Minnesota on Monday night. Minnesota ranks 3rd in the NFL against the run. They only give up 71 yards rushing per game. They've also only given up 1 rushing touchdown this season. Howard's been struggling a little bit. He's losing touches to Cone. It's in Chicago, so he may get something going, but I don't see it this week. He's definitely a sit for me against that Vikings defense.
Yeah, definitely. My guy this week, my first running back is going to be a sit for Isaiah Crowell. He's been probably one of the biggest disappointment at the running back position as far as fantasy-wise for me. And that's what I get, really. I trusted a Cleveland Brown, and that was my first mistake. So I've learned my lesson. I won't ever trust one again. But they're going against the Jets, who, I mean, yeah, it's the Jets, but the Jets have been surprisingly solid on the run defense. They held Jay Ajayi to 16 yards, I believe. So Crowell has not proven enough to be starter worthy in this week for me.
And on to my second running back. I'm taking from the same Monday night game, Latavius Murray. He's taking over for Dalvin Cook. You may think he's got the opportunities there, but the Bears defense has been pretty solid. They are, let's see here, they are 6th in the NFL against the run. They only give up an average of 85 yards per game. Murray was solid in Oakland, but let's face it, Minnesota doesn't have the same line that they did in Oakland. Mm-hmm. He'll get a lot of carries, but I look for the Bears defense to eat him up. He's no Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook played great, and there's a reason why Dalvin Cook beat him out in preseason. I could see Latavius Murray struggling this week.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to address one more question that we just got in the live chat. and I'm going to get your opinion right after I shoot for it. But it is what are the thoughts on Rivers this week? And my thoughts on Rivers is that's a tough one, just because Phillip Rivers has had a rough fantasy year so far, at least from my perspective, because I've had to start him every week in a 2-quarterback league. And he's put up manageable points every week, but nothing like you really want out of a starting quarterback, honestly. He'll be meeting the also 0-4 Giants, so I'd like to think that they have a little duel there, and Phillip Rivers is due for a good game. So if there's better options, I would rather take them, but I think Phillip Rivers is a start this week for sure, because he's been consistent on putting up points. They may not be great points, but they are points. So I'm going to let Steve take a little bit on that.
Yeah, he is consistent at putting up points, but he's so inconsistent as a quarterback. He can get touchdowns, but he's also going to get interceptions. New York's defense is pretty solid. They got a good pass defense. I'd say if there's someone you could pick up and play over Phillip Rivers, I would look into that, depending who's out there. If you are kind of stuck, I mean, you got to play Rivers. But I would look, maybe Watson's still available. Even I like Josh McCown this week. Cleveland's terrible. Brissett's out there possibly, and even Brian Hoyer. Those are guys you can consider. I don't know if I could pull the trigger because of how good of a quarterback in a ways Phillip Rivers is. They throw a lot. Melvin Gordon hasn't been running the ball well. So that's a tough one. Like I said, you could see what options are available and try to pick them up. If not, then I just say go with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah. All right, and back to it. My second running back is Eddie Lacy, and I wasn't really sure what name to put here, just because there was speculation on who exactly was going to be the starter now that Chris Carson went down. From the reports I saw, it looked like Lacy was projected to get the lead there, but the only problem is we haven't seen Eddie Lacy look good since like his rookie year. And also you have Thomas Rawls and CJ Prosise, who I know they may have some injury problems for the both of them, but they've also been starting running backs in this Seattle offense before. So whoever can will, and I think it'll be a too many people in that backfield to want a starter from that team. And besides, that offensive line is terrible going against what is one of the best front sevens in football on the Rams, including Aaron Donald. So I wouldn't want a running back from there this week or ever.
Yeah, definitely not. That Carson injury really hurt. All right, my first wide receiver I'm picking this week is Alshon Jeffrey. He is going to be locked on Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson is one quarterback who follows his top wide receiver. He's not following Torrey Smith. We know that. So he'll be on Alshon Jeffrey. We've seen Patrick Peterson. He shut down Garcon last week. He's one of those cornerbacks that shuts down the wide receiver. Alshon Jeffrey is not going to have a great game this week.
Yeah. My first wide receiver this week is – all right, I decided to go low here because if I went high, I would get attacked. So I went with Martavis Bryant just because he hasn't necessarily been the model of consistency, but he definitely has that challenge this week. In all honesty, I wanted to put his name down, but I couldn't find myself to put Antonio Brown's name down just because he's Antonio Brown and he'll find a way. But that Jaguars secondary is looking scary good, and the pass rush led by Calais Campbell. With A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey back there, that's two really good corners in the league right now. And while you shouldn't expect the world from Antonio Brown, he's still Antonio Brown, so he'll find a way. I'm sure he will. But I definitely wouldn't want to start Bryant this week, whether he's matched up on Bouye or Ramsey.
Do watch the injury report on Bryant. He popped up today as questionable with the illness, so he may not play tomorrow. Guess we'll see tomorrow how he's feeling as well.
Definitely be a sit then.
Yeah. All right, my second wide receiver, I'm picking Amari Cooper. He's already lost Derek Carr this week. I assume Carr's not playing. There's talks of him playing, but I just can't see it. You can't trust him. He's been terrible these last couple of weeks. He's had 3 catches for 15 yards combined the last 2 weeks. That's not something you expect out of Amari Cooper. He's probably a lot of people's number 1 wide receiver. He's getting outplayed by Crabtree. You can't play him until at least Derek Carr's back, but he has not impressed whatsoever.
All right. My other wide receiver this week is Sammy Watkins, who really broke out onto the scene in that 49ers game where he balled out. This week they are facing a Seahawks defense that, while I don't like them, and while they're nowhere near the elite defense they once were, they're still strong enough to at least try to lock down Sammy Watkins. Maybe Cooper Kupp will shine in that time. That's a little hard to tell, especially being a division rivalry game. You can never really know exactly what to expect, but I'd be a little hesitant to go with Sammy Watkins this week. I'd look for some better options.
All right, for the tight end position, I'm going with Jason Witten. He was pretty good the first 2 weeks of the season. The last 2 weeks, not so much. He's only had 1 catch in each of the last 2 games. Prescott's throwing the ball, but he seems to be looking for other options. He's going to Bryant. He's going to Beasley. He's going to Williams. Even Butler's getting catches. The targets just aren't there for Witten, and I think you got to bench him until his targets start to come back up. I'd look for other options in the tight end position. For sure.
And here's one guy that you shouldn't be looking for. He probably won't be a free agent just because he was drafted pretty high in the tight end spot, but he's been super inconsistent, and his name's Kyle Rudolph. I was also scared to put him on this list because there's a correlation with when his plays went down. In week 1, he had a manageable game. He played pretty good. I believe that was a touchdown that really got him those points, though. But that was the last time Sam Bradford was their starting quarterback. So Sam Bradford is supposed to come back this week. He was also at one point supposed to come back last week. So I'm not really sure there either. You could see the reemergence of Rudolph, but I'm not counting on it.
And for my sit defense, I'm picking the Titans. You've seen what Watson did to them last week. They are not playing well. I mean, you can't start a defense who's struggling. I know Miami's offense hasn't got going.
But he's back.
Oh, there he is.
All right, good.
All right, we're back. So, because going against the Dolphins, Miami's going to come out and try to impress this week for their home fans. First time this year, they're playing in Miami. Cutler probably have a good game. Seeing what Watson did last week, I say sit Tennessee.
All right. And my defense is actually going to lead into a question that we had in the a little bit earlier in the live chat, but it's a little bit of a weird one too. I went with the Kansas City Chiefs just because while they are a very good defense right now, they're very good. We also aren't sure because that Texans offense looks very good as well. I'd love to see Deshaun Watson come out there and be dynamic. Yes, yes, you can definitely start the Chiefs and you'll probably be just fine. But I'm also slightly worried about it because I'm not sure what to expect. Will Deshaun Watson ball out whenever he's facing probably the toughest defense he's had to so far? Will he not? I'm not really sure, so I'm scared on the Chiefs there. But if it means you have to drop anybody important to pick up another defense, don't do that. Just take your chances with the Chiefs. So that kind of led into a question by Michael Andrews, and I'm going to go on a stream of them he had real quick. He said, is Chiefs D is Houston's offense for real or just playing bums? It's a little bit of both. It looks like they're real, but it also looks like they've been playing bums. So that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not sure what to expect, but I'm hesitant, if that makes any sense. He had another question with he said he's seen some 49ers fans saying they hope Frank Gore runs for 300 yards. Your thoughts on that, but is Frank worth starting? How has he done with Brissett? He's definitely worth starting. I don't hope he runs for 300 yards. I mean, I want to win, but I mean, I hope he runs for 300 yards in the next game. I always want the best for Frank Gore, but I want a good game from him. And any thoughts there?
Yeah, like I said earlier in the start section, I would start him if you got him. Like I said, he's going up against the Niners for the first time. He's going to want to get in the end zone. Mm-hmm. You know, Carlos Hyde's on the other side, who was his heir apparent. He wants to prove that, hey, you picked the wrong back here. I think he does score multiple times against the Niners, especially if they get to the goal line. They're going to feed Frank Gore 3 times in a row, maybe even 4, depending on the score.
All right, and then his next question is, I have Garcon, Goodwin, Shepard, Woods, and Nelson. Which 2 do you start? I'm assuming Nelson is Jordy Nelson, and if that's the case, Jordy Nelson and Pierre Garcon.
Yeah, definitely. Those are 2 you definitely got to start. Colts are not good against the pass, and that's a revenge game as well for Garcon, so he's going to play good against Indianapolis.
Yeah. And then his last question is, what do you order from Chick-fil-A? I just get the little chicken nuggets with the fries. Man, those are always clutch, but there we go. So we're going to go ahead and move to the waiver wire pickup this week. I'll let you start it off.
All right, so if you lost Dalvin Cook or Chris Carson like I did on my team last week, a guy to look at is Wayne Gallman. The Giants have no running back. Perkins hasn't been good. Darkwa hasn't been good. Gallman got in last week and looked pretty well. He had 42 yards rushing on 11 attempts, as well as 2 catches and a touchdown. They got to get someone in that Giants backfield. I don't think they've had anybody good since Brandon Jacobs, and even him, he wasn't that great. So I say they got to give Wayne Gallman a chance. He's a guy that you could pick up. You could probably play him this week. Chargers aren't that good against the run defense. I believe Perkins is already out this week. You could pick him up and start him, and he's good to stash on your bench. Even if you don't start him or he's not getting a ton of carries, you should take that job over pretty soon.
Definitely. I've been waiting for so long to be able to put this guy on my waiver wire pickup. I actually picked him up a while ago just because I was so excited. But it might just be from being a Carolina boy and a UNC Tar Heel fan. But his time has finally come, and it is Mitchell Trubisky's time. I'm excited. I don't think I want to play him yet, but like I said earlier, whenever I had the list of other players, other quarterbacks to put in there, that's the next guy. If you absolutely need to, he's worth a start. I mean, the Vikings defense hasn't been wonderful, minus Xavier Rhodes, who's been outstanding. But the Vikings defense just hasn't been wonderful. You could see a good game from Mitchell. But I'm super excited for the breakout of Mitchell Trubisky. I was always on the fence whether he should be a starter. But nothing I say matters now. He is the starter, so I'm excited. And definitely look to pick up Mitchell Trubisky in your leagues.
Yeah, he's a guy you could definitely stash on the bench. He's looked a lot better than Glennon, and I don't even know how Glennon was the starter and got paid all that money.
All right, I think that about does it. Looks like that's it for our by the way, I just found out that was King Gab that was asking questions. Wasn't paying that much attention. I want to know, why do you still have Marquise Goodwin on your fantasy team? That's the real question. All right, but that's it for us today. Send us your questions on Twitter or anything like that. I'd love to answer them on Twitter. I'm sure Steve would too. Also, make sure you give us a follow, Nothing But Niners. Find us on about any social media account you can. And above all else, stay faithful.
See you next week, guys.